the session. So yeah, my name is Brian. I'm Employability Manager at the university here, and basically everything that I say for the next 20 minutes or so, actually for the next hour and a half through the 3 webinar sessions, is going to be based on obviously my own experiences working in careers and employability. Predominantly the lessons I've learned that are really the significant ones are lessons that I've learned from working with lots and lots of employers across lots of sectors, big employers, small employers, and across all sectors. And also from working with, I mean, I've learned as much from students and graduates as well. So the mistakes that students have made, the great things that students have done, and how they've developed their self-awareness, things they've achieved. And I suppose ultimately, you know, what we're here to focus on is, okay, how can you create the absolute best CV that you can? The first point I want to make is that, you know, there are certain things that you need to do with a CV. So there are certain, not rules, but there's certain things that have to be right if you're going to make the right impression. The other thing, though, is that it's very the quality of your CV is very much dependent on what it is you've done. Okay, so if you have no work experience and no extracurricular activities, then it's very, very difficult to create a CV which really makes your skills and relevance to that job really shine through, depending on what the job is. And everybody has a starting point. But your job in your CV is to make absolute most of what it is you've done, and to create that in a format which an employer is going to, one, be able to review it quickly so that they can make a quick decision whether to interview you or not, and two, that your second job is to really impress them and to try and make yourself kind of stand out, but without worrying too much about other people and focusing on making the best impression you can based on what it is you've done. But that first point is about, you know, if you haven't done those extracurricular things, if you don't have the work experience from part-time jobs, etc., then it's very difficult to really improve your CV, possibly. You can really improve your CV by doing other things, by new experiences, by, you know, getting a new part-time job, by doing new extracurricular activities, by taking on new challenges. You know, that's how you can really improve it. But yes, I'm going to talk about the structure, content, presentation, and on those key things today. Okay, what I want you to add to the comments box, for, you know, lots of people booked into the session. There's obviously a need, and people want to know and need to know more about how to create the absolute best CV they can. We're going to look at some examples in a second. You can see on the screen there. But I want to know the particular questions that you have. So you've gone to the bother of, well, hopefully it's very accessible, so it's not much bother, but you've gone to the bother of committing the time to this 30 minutes. So you obviously feel the need to know more about creating the best CV you can. So what is the specific question or questions that you have? So if there are any of those, please add those into the comment box, the chat box, and I'll get to them as we go along. Sometimes I'll wait and leave them to, you know, until I'm finished the point. Sometimes I'll stop midpoint because it's really caught my attention and it's relevant. So please do feel free to add those questions into the chat box. You can direct those questions so that everybody can see them, or you can select it so that I only see it, and you know, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so fire those questions in. Okay, so first thing I want to look at really is looking at, well, the main thing I want to look at is look at some different samples. So what I've got here is 3 or 4 different samples of CVs, and the reality is that there are CV templates, and we have them in the Career Development Centre. You will have received some CV templates examples from our team, from your placement tutors, if that's been relevant to your program or whatever. So templates are good because they ensure that you have you're including the right information. You've got a solid presentation structure, you know, that bit is kind of taken care of. And if you fill in the information within that template, then and you do that well, then you're going to have a good CV because the presentation's already sorted. A template is a really good starting point. One of the downsides of a template is that what employers would say, and I've been hearing this for many years, is that, and even myself as an employer, hiring students, placing students, or whatever, you are looking for people to stand out, and if everybody has a CV, is using the same CV template, then it becomes monotonous and somewhat boring. And there can be really good content in a template that looks the same as everybody else's, and if it looks slightly different, then it could be more standout. So a template is a good starting point, but the key here is that your CV is your document. You're in control. There's certain things you must do and certain things you must avoid, but this is your document. It's about listening to advice and the different perspectives on the quality of your CV, but ultimately this is a representation of you. And if that means the structure or the presentation needs to be slightly different, or you want it to be slightly different, then there's lots of options. Okay, so this first one, if we look at it as an example, this first one is a second-year business studies student who has used, fairly traditional type template. So we see here, I'm going to highlight what I think some of the good points are, and then I'm going to highlight some of the things that I think possibly would make this particular sample better. So hopefully you can see that CV in front of you. Please let me know if you can't. It's just curriculum vitae at the top of the page, so hopefully you can see that on your screen. Somebody seems to have just, or maybe that was me, he's written a wee scribble on it, but I'm not sure how to remove that, so don't worry about it, it's fine. So you see, so curriculum vitae at the top, I would recommend that you have your name as the title rather than curriculum vitae. These are things that, some of these things aren't going to be things that are really going to make or break your CV. I just think it's better to have your name as the title, because you are the topic here. Then you've got your contact details, your home address, your mobile number, and your email address. Okay, so maybe you can't see that. Okay, good question. Let me see if I can. Let me see, hold on a wee second. I don't think it is possible to zoom in. Let me just double check something first. View controls. Oh, it is. Yes, here we go. So if we look at the top half, you see you've got that contact details, which is fine. Quick tips on contact details. Obviously, you need your address, you need your mobile number, and you need your. Yeah, Alex, I think I just clicked it there. Hopefully, you've seen it zoom in. Can you please, somebody just let me know if that's zoomed in a little bit more, or maybe it's just zoomed in for me. Good job, thanks, Catherine. So, a couple of tips on contact details. Not going to waste much time on this. Make sure your email address is appropriate. You don't need your nationality, you don't need your national insurance number, you don't need your marital status, you don't need, what else? You might put in the fact you've got a driving license in there, but that's all. Don't take a lot of space for your address. It needs to be there, but please don't waste a whole column or half a page or a third of a page even writing your contact details, because it's just factual information. It's not actually selling you, but at the same time it needs to be there. Excuse me. So this next bit, so this is kind of optional. We generally recommend that you have a statement here. Now, this one's called a personal profile. It might be called a career objective. Sometimes it's called a personal statement. Doesn't really make a huge difference what it's called. It is an opportunity that if you are, especially if you don't have a cover letter for whatever reason, you want to include a bit of an initial summary so that the reader knows what it is you're looking for, and even at this early point is hearing some of the highlights that you've got that are really relevant to what they're looking for. So one of the things that I'll continue to say is that you need to target your CV to the job you're applying to, and this is an opportunity to do that. I read lots of profiles or career objectives which make no impact whatsoever. So this kind of short statement, a couple of sentences, even though it's very short and seems quite easy, it takes time to actually get it right and make a positive impact. In my own CV, I actually don't have one. I always write a really nice cover letter, and then my CV is actually a one-page CV. more like a resume style, like in the States. But that's just what I've decided to do, because it's my document and that's what I think works best for me. So, but traditionally you're talking 2-page CV, certainly no more than 2 pages. You might go for a 1-pager, but generally it's 2 pages, but definitely no more. Again, folks, just put your questions as we go along here, because I'm going to fly through this pretty quickly because it says this is quite a short session. Education, again, the ordering of your sections might vary. It might depend on you and what you've got. If you've got lots of experience, which is relevant to the jobs you're applying to, you might actually prioritize experience over education. It's your decision. But again, in general, sort of traditional terms, for a student who's applying for an internship or whatever, who maybe doesn't have lots of relevant experience, you would have education here. Evidence of performance is what we're looking for. I want to know what you're studying. I want to know the modules, the kind of modules you're studying, because unless you tell me that, I don't really know it. I also really want to know how you're performing, because I'm judging you here. If you don't give me any information on how you're performing, then how can I judge? I know what you're studying, but I don't know how you're doing it. Because if you tell me how you're getting on, then I'll make judgments on your ability, your work ethic, so all the while when an employer is reading this information, they're judging. So put yourself in their shoes, basically. So be specific around your degree or postgrad or whatever you're studying or have studied, and then as you go further back in time, you provide less detail. So specify your A levels or if it's diploma or whatever you studied. But then once you start to go back to GCSEs, then just summarize like this student has done here. So that's nice. The presentation is nice as well. You've got this, it's quite standard, but this line between the sections is nice and makes it nice and clean and professional. Work experience or employment, as the student has called it, is really well structured. Gives clarity, job title, employer, dates, bullet points with good action words used at the start of each bullet point. Really important. Thanks to Sarah Jane, you just asked a question about your personal profile, and what should you include or not. I mean, it's a first impression. It's a real, what is your objective? What is it that you want to achieve? What is it the job that you're trying to secure? And then 1 or 2 things, whether that's about work experience or academic performance, that can just give me a little taster of what's to come and make me think, I'm interested in reading on here. No negative statements, no woolly language, which doesn't really say very much. So try and be specific from the very start. So this is the structure you're looking for in your work experience. Starting with the most recent and working back, unless you have really relevant experience, you might separate that and include it in a relevant experience section. So if you're a final year student or graduate, but you've done a placement year, you might separate that and say, have relevant experience, give more detail on that, and then more summary information on your part-time job. So you're deciding what to prioritize based on what you think the employer will want to know. And then work experience continuing on. So this student has quite a lot of work experience. Last section is additional skills, interests, and hobbies. So people will call that final section a few different things. Hobbies and interests, achievements and interests, additional information. You can call it various things. It depends what you've done. This student just happens to have done a lot of volunteering and sport and whatever else, and that's why they've summarized all those things within that one section. And again, good bullet points, good detail, and overall the impression I'm getting here is this is a student who's done a lot, lots of experience for a second year student, good detail, writes well, being specific. Overall, really good job. Okay, Rebecca, if you have a lot of work experience, going back, yeah, so it's a popular question. So you've got 12 jobs, you've worked for 15 years, whatever it is. So it's your CV, so you judge. But in general, it also depends on your recent jobs, how long that you've been in those jobs for, how much detail you want to give. But ultimately, we've got a 2-page CV here. You need to create. If you give the most recent 2 or 3 jobs and give good detail on those, after that, then you might write just one summary statement with the dates saying various roles, including, and then the dates. So you still always want to put in the fact that you had a job at that time, even if it's going back 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, because it's important for me as an employer to know that you were in employment throughout that time. If there's a gap in your CV, then I'm going, well, what were you doing for that 5-year period? So with the most recent jobs or the most relevant jobs, give the detail. But then the further you go back after 5, 6, 8 years, then at that point you really start to just give summaries. So if you change career and have no experience from the new field, okay, so your biggest challenge there is to, in terms of the skills that employers are looking for, and how do you make your existing experience relevant to that as much as you can? So that's a challenge, obviously. And in those circumstances, maybe we would say to students, graduates, maybe that might be something you need some support with from our team. So your first job when you're creating your CV is to go, okay, how do I make this as relevant as possible, even if I am trying to move sectors, change careers? Now that part of that process might say to you that actually I've got gaps here that I need to plug in terms of development, knowledge, or whatever. And there's other things that influence how you can make that change. It's about how you network, how you make those speculative approaches. Maybe that you have to be more proactive than somebody that's obviously been working in that sector for a while. Okay, so just look through this one really quickly. Another sample university template. It's okay. It's the university's template. It's not your template. That's what I struggle with using these kinds of templates, because it's like, I want to know about you, and I want you to create your own CV. But it does allow you, gives you a structure and the headings, and you just fill those in, and you can create a really nice CV. Sorry about that. My phone was ringing. Again, looking through this briefly, good use, so good detail, good evidence of performance here, module marks, good specific detail. Catherine's asked here, is bullet points always best, or could short paragraphs work? Great question. Sometimes you can go a bit far with bullet points. Short paragraphs can work. The thing you must avoid, basically what I'm saying here, is long paragraphs. Okay, so it's using your judgment. It might be that in your work experience, bullet points will work really well, but maybe in your additional information or hobbies and interests, you might be doing more of a short paragraph, maybe with some certain words in bold. So these are things that it's about your own judgment. But if I go to the second page of this one, hold on a wee second. You see this student, I think it's a he has gone for more small paragraphs on the second page. He's gone for a skills profile, which this first CV didn't. So again, two students who are both second year, similar kind of subjects, but gone for different templates. First one had lots of work experience, and that really dominated the CV, because that's what she wanted to get across. This student doesn't have as much work experience, but because of that, but has used a skills profile to really target their CV to the skills and qualities that the employer is looking for. You could say that it's a little bit text heavy. A lot of this is very subjective. I like it, and I'm happy to read those paragraphs. Okay, now, not so good. Okay, so this is a CV, which is, if I just show you so that's the first page. Hold on a second, I just scroll through here. So that's page 1. No, that's page 1. What was I doing? No, what am I talking about? There's so many pages of it that I'm getting confused. That is page 1. So there's this. I just don't want to read this. This is a very good graduate, by the way. He got a job. Good job. But this, I just don't want to read this. I'm an employer. I've got 30 CVs to look at, and I just do not want to read it. What you've done could be great, but I'm looking to scan here, make quick decisions. So let me go to the second page, which looks like a first page. So good effort with presentation. They are a design graduate after all. You've got this sort of bit down here, and then 2 sort of columns, bit text heavy possibly. But let's really try to specify the skills that are relevant. References on the second page, which is a bit random. That should be the final page. So I think somebody put a question in there about references. Yes, you do need to include references, and they should be at the bottom of your CV. Two referees, contact details, their relationships with a line manager, course director, placement tutor, whatever. If you don't do that, the other option is to put references available on request. So that's an option. Okay, so we're racing through here now. So text heavy, hold on a second. So yeah, so that one too long. Really good graduate who just put too much, wasn't confident enough to keep it down to 2 pages, and didn't utilize the space enough, and didn't utilize bullet points. So you know, underwhelmed really, especially for a graduate who specializes in multimedia design. This last one, this is a well, I was a graduate who's now working in Dublin for Microsoft. She's done PR, so understated, light on detail really in some ways, but when you actually look at the detail, so studied PR, has their, but these achievements are, you know, they haven't described in a lot of detail, but they are significant experiences, and I think the student who actually worked for us could do more with. So Kira has asked about font size, 11, 12. I would recommend. And there's different font styles obviously you can use. Don't go too fancy. But yeah, 11 or 12 is usually best. Okay, so the key bits really here are the fact that thinking about things from an employer's perspective, there are templates on there. There is an employability portal. Let me just share my screen again. Share application. And okay, so you can see my screen here, which is the employability portal. If I scroll on down, you'll see we have a CV builder, which you can access if you're just getting started with a CV. That can be a good starting point. You can arrange an appointment to see a careers consultant if you feel maybe your CV's got to a certain point, you need that final push, or to get it absolutely nailed on. Ultimately, the key tips here, folks, are targeting your CV, addressing what the employer is looking for, making the most of what you've done, but spending good time in how you write concise but detailed bullet points, which is actually a real challenge to be, specific but concise at the same time, and how you change your CV as far as the presentation of it. No more than 2 pages. I suggest 2-page CV, or you could go for a 1-pager. That's challenging, even though it's what I've done myself personally. In terms of templates and the look and feel of your CV, if you're a designer, then that's a different kettle of fish. You're under more pressure to maybe create something which is more personal to you. Other than that, in terms of templates and looks and feels of CVs, if you go into Microsoft Word, or if you use a Mac, go into Pages and you go to create new document, and from one of the templates, there's some really nice, clean, crisp, professional resume templates in there. That's where I would go. Okay, so yeah, so we're kind of out of time. The next webinar is at 2:30 on interview skills. Yep, and I'm going to be taking that. So I've got sort of 2 minutes really to answer any final questions. We will be sending a follow-up email for in case you want to arrange an appointment or you had any further questions. So yeah, thanks very much for your time. If you don't have any questions, I really appreciate you coming along, and I'll hang around for 2 minutes in case you do have questions.